One thing that I especially love about VBS is that it provides an opportunity for people of all ages, interests, abilities, even people with disabilities to serve. We just as ministry leaders need to think creatively.
Welcome to Moving Mountains, a podcast where we get to celebrate together the wins that different churches and the church as a whole have experienced. I'm Pam Flannery, and each month I get the amazing opportunity to talk with church leaders from all over the country, hearing the innovative and creative ways they're reaching their communities through the struggles and the wins in their ministry. Our hope is that you'll leave each episode with fresh ideas for your ministry, as well as the tools to put that plan into action so that you can impact your community further. Let's move mountains. Hi, my name is Pam Flannery. I lead our customer communities at PushPay. Thank you for joining us today. Many of you may lead children's and youth ministries, and I want to personally thank you for your dedication and the impact you're making on this generation. For those of you who organize big events like VBS, we've created this podcast with you in mind, and I know that you will find great value in today's podcast. Today, I have the honor of introducing you to Carolyn Kirsten, Strategic Leader of Growth at Trinity Church in Lansing, Michigan. Carolyn was the Children and Family Ministry Director and led VBS for 16 years and has a wealth of knowledge that she's going to share with us today. Carolyn, welcome. It is so great to spend time with you and glean from your experience and your wisdom.
Oh, thank you, Pam. It is truly a joy and privilege to have this conversation to others in ministry. VBS is something that is near and dear to my heart. It's been something that all of my family has been involved in. My husband, our 4 kids attending and then returning to serve. And it really is the highlight of our summer. And as the director, to be honest, it's what the rest of our summer was organized around, was getting ready for that.
So true.
Yeah. But I love just the impact, the unique impact that I think a VBS can have. When you think, now we can't even count on our regularly attending families attending on a Sunday morning, even once or twice a month. And then VBS is such a unique opportunity where we have for a full week, the way we run ours, it's 20 hours in one single week. Honestly, that is more than we might see a child for the whole rest of the year. And yet we have that concentrated time to show them God's love, teach them God's truth, and make a lifelong impact on their life. So VBS is one of my favorite ministry loves. And so I'm excited to be able to talk to you more about that today.
And to do it for 16 years. And I know the work that goes into it. My background is in children's ministry, and as much work that goes in, I feel like it's one of those ministries that really energizes people. And you see an opportunity for so many kids to watch their lives transform, to see their hearts open to the gospel. And just for those relationships, it's funny, the same volunteers seem to come back every year, don't they?
They do. They do.
It's that family feel. One of the most valuable summer events that children look forward to, and I'm sure I hear parents like starting in April, looking for Vacation Bible School. It does provide great opportunities for children and youth to invite their friends to experience fun while learning about Jesus. I'm sure you have some stories. One thing that I really love that sets you apart from most that I've heard is that you include youth. So I do want you to touch on that today as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you shared a story about someone special, and I know there's many, 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 many stories, but share with our audience about the story you shared with me.
Yeah, I would love to. I'm going to try not saying this is my favorite too many times, because I realize if I say everything is my favorite, then that doesn't mean anything. But this is truly one of my favorite things about VBS is, and because I've been involved in VBS for so long, I've seen this over time where kids who have grown up attending VBS, then immediately when they age out, they want to turn around and serve, which is exactly what you want. That was an experience that blessed them, that they had fun, they learned about Jesus, and they want to do that for other kids. So we talk to our student volunteers like, you are rock stars to these kids. And they can remember that, like when they were the little ones looking up to those teen volunteers and every word they said. And when they did the motions to the songs, then I wanted to do the motions to the songs. So those student volunteers are the heartbeat. And I tell them they have opportunity to speak into kids, to be an example in ways that even the coolest adults, just can't, because of their age. And the student I told you about, his name's Benji, and he attended VBS from when he was very little. And another very significant part of Benji's story is that his mom passed away when he was 2 years old. He's the youngest of 6 kids, and she passed away quite suddenly just from an illness that took her life in just about a month and a half. So this little guy didn't, he grew up not knowing his mom, but he had an aunt in particular who kind of filled that maternal role, always signed the kids up for VBS. At the time, the aunt and uncle did not attend our church, but knew and valued this as an experience. And I do remember when Benji was little, he was one of those sad ones. And everybody who's been in VBS, the ones that are just, it's very hard for them to be away for, for a while from their families. But Benji came and he went all the way through. His older siblings as they aged out, and I will mention our VBS, we kind of have 3 separate VBS programs going on at the same time. We have a preschool VBS, an elementary VBS, and then what we call the blast is for 5th through 7th graders. So after you graduate from 7th grade, kids go back into serving. So Benji's older siblings were doing that. And then what the beautiful thing is, now Benji is a junior in high school. He led our music team last year, and he is one of the student leaders in our youth group. His faith is just amazing. And I'm so grateful that he had that consistent opportunity to attend VBS, to hear God's truth, to have those ongoing relationships with people. He had a lot of people pouring into him over the years, but I know, and he says this, that VBS was a powerful, just consistent rock in his life. And now he is back and he's serving, and that aunt and uncle just became members of our church because of how they saw the impact that Trinity had and VBS and these other ministry opportunities had on their nieces and nephews. They wanted to be a part of it, and they've now connected. So it's just super cool to be a part of that.
It's stories like this that just grab my heart. Benji represents so many children whose lives have been positively impacted by unconditional love from those who show the love of Christ. And those experiences are what motivates, I'm sure, your volunteers to serve over and over again. One story, and there's multiple when you do a VBS. It's not just one person, but I've seen hundreds of kids that are touched, and you watch them and it's just so genuine. Let's talk about volunteers, because they really are the vital backbone, aren't they, of the success of VBS. Leadership is, of course, your role is, I can't even say enough about what you do and just the influence that you have. And because you are such a great leader, you're able to produce great leaders. So I just want to say thank you, because I know what it takes. When do you start meeting with your volunteers? And then share what that process looks like. Because so many people think, they just started a month ago and I can drop my kids off, and they have no idea the work and the prayer and the prep that goes into a vacation Bible school.
Yeah, that's right. I always make the joke that one of my Christmas presents is getting the VBS curriculum in the mail, and because it does come in around December. Yes. I also say that May Carolyn will thank January and February Carolyn if she gets going on things. So most ideally is getting, particularly for those leadership roles, getting those recruited in January and February, long before you're thinking about VBS. Our VBS is typically the end of July. So that's a good 6 or 7 months. We're already thinking ahead. And as you mentioned, I do have we have some key people who do this year after year after year, but there are always, over the years, I have had times where I thought, because Carrie moved to Kentucky, and I thought, how will we do VBS without Carrie? But you know what? There's someone else that steps into her place. And so those things happen. Your rock solid volunteers are there, but sometimes life circumstances make them unable to serve. And God consistently provides. I can't tell you how many times I've prayed, like, okay, Lord, this is your show. Like, this is your thing. And I can't find these people. I need your help. And he provides time and time and time again. There's never been one where we've come up short. With the size of our VBS, we have Now, this is pre-COVID, of course. Things are a little different now, haven't quite regained back, but pre-COVID, we had right around 1,000 kids. So that requires a significant number of volunteers, hands-on volunteers who were there during the week. We had between 200 and 300 volunteers. And one thing that I especially love about VBS is that it provides an opportunity for people of all ages, interests, abilities, even people with disabilities to serve. We just as ministry leaders need to think creatively. We have a group of volunteers that meet on Tuesday mornings all year round, who do all of the curriculum prep, they're sorting, they're cutting, craft materials, they're bagging snacks. They do a ton of the work for VBS, and they help with our Sunday morning programming as well. But that is what they do. And a good number of those people there have really not interested in working one-on-one with kids or directly with kids, but they give hours and hours and hours to serve in that way. And VBS provides such a variety of ways that people can get involved. We've found that just to be a super amazing blessing for our church as a whole. It's like all hands on deck, we call it. There's a spot for everybody, whether that's in prep, whether that's working directly with kids, whether it's music, sports, childcare, snacks. There's a spot, technology. There's a spot for everybody.
Yeah, you were saying that you had people that were cake decorators, woodworking. Tell us a little bit about that. I know we were going to talk about that a little bit later, but I'd love for you to expand on that, because when you were sharing even archery, and I know a lot of this is for your 5th through 7th, I want you to talk about that as well, because you offer such a unique opportunity for youth and giving them choices.
Yes. So the Blast, our VBS for 5th through 7th grade, we did want it to be distinct so that kids, if you think about that 5th through 7th grade age, that's the age where they have all kinds of opportunities with what they can do with their time during the summer. There's art camps, sports camps. So going to the same old VBS they did when they were little can lose its luster or not be as interesting. So that's why we particularly changed up the name. They get a live band instead of the pre-recorded music. We do different elements like that to make it more fun, more cool, the 5th through 7th grade. You think you're pretty cool at that age. So, and then instead of everybody going to crafts and everybody going to recreation, they get to choose electives. And so these electives really are based on what our Trinity family's abilities have provided. So we have a group of individuals who do an archery ministry. So archery is an elective. We have some of the traditional group games. We've had drama, a woman who is interested in acting. She did a drama elective, and that group of students, this was even cool, that they were able to record the video announcements for the rest of the summer for our church family. So here are these kids attending a ministry event, but they too are having the opportunity to use their skills and interests to serve our church. Woodworking, an older gentleman, long retired, has done a woodworking elective, and the kids leaving with the coolest things, whether that's a birdhouse or it's a yard game. It's like with washers. I think it's called a washer game. They built the boxes for that, and they get to take that home. That's all part of it. We've had a sewing elective every year. There's 2 or 3 women who bring in their own sewing machines, and it's typically been girls who have signed up for that. They are making things for themselves. They're also making dresses that are sent overseas. And then the cupcaking, you mentioned cupcake decorating. That's one of my favorite stories. I don't think I've said it too many times. One of my favorite VBS stories was we had this idea, a cupcake decorating elective. That would be very fun. I wonder who could do that. Well, I was Facebook friends with a woman from our church, and I noticed that she made very pretty decorated cakes for her kids' birthdays. So I contacted her and just said, Becky, would you be interested in leading a cupcake decorating elective at the Blast? And she was blown away. She was like, oh, I would love to do that. She's like, cupcake decorating is my thing. And I can use that to serve at church. Like, I never would have imagined that cupcake decorating would be something that I could do to serve, but it's exactly something that she can do. And I think for us as ministry leaders, sometimes we need to think outside the box of the traditional skill sets, because she did that for years and years. And then when she was not able to, I had another 2 sisters who run a baking business, stepped right in, and it's phenomenal. I mean, the kids that were in that cupcake decorating class learned legitimate decorating skills. And just at their, summer VBS at church. So that's just been so fun.
That's so true. One thing too, I want to ask you, and if this is too personal, then I mean, as far as with your church, then I don't want you to share it, but budget wise, what if there are churches that say we just don't have the budget? I know there's creative ways of reaching out to the community and even asking parents. So what would you say? First of all, do you charge for your VBS? I don't think there's anything wrong with charging. But what advice do you give to churches? Maybe they're smaller, or maybe they just have not budgeted this year, but they really want to do this. What ideas can you suggest for them?
Yes. Well, I will say, first of all, we do charge. Maybe started 10 years ago, $5 for the whole week. This year, we are bumping it up to $10. But then if you think what a family would be paying for a day camp or a daycare situation for their kids, $10 is no comparison. And then we also openly say, if you are in need of a scholarship, please ask. And we don't say no. Like, anybody who asks gets it for free. So there is some of the cost offset with that. This is another way that you can get people involved through donating craft materials or snacks. Somebody who couldn't be there during the week, but would love to participate, that through a donation is a huge way that they can still have that direct impact. We have people donate snacks for the kids, which, are the very simple Oreos or, trail mixes and things like that. We also have snacks that we provide for volunteers. So we have multiple people who stop in on their way to work, stop at the church, drop off a veggie tray or a bucket of bagels, and they get to be a part of VBS, even though they can't stay for the morning. So that is one way to approach it. And then look around. I mean, often with crafts in particular, that can be something that takes some more budget money. But I bet you have materials. And now with online resources that we have, Pinterest is amazing for craft ideas with just basic materials.
Yes.
So don't let budget keep you from doing it, because as you said, there are creative ways that you can work around that and work through that.
So good. Appreciate that. Yeah. And $10 is nothing. I go to a gym and I looked and they're doing their summer camp, and it's like $180 for for 4 days. And it's just a couple hours a day. I'm like, that is a lot. And actually that's a lot less than a lot of places charge for, and this is not childcare. This is child investment. So exactly. Charging, never feel bad for charging. And hopefully our listeners will know that, never feel bad, because you do need to recoup some of that money. So you just mentioned something about people bringing things. Have you ever used the needs feature within groups? I absolutely love that feature, and it's kind of the hidden gold, and just wondered if you ever used it.
Yes, exactly. We have, particularly with snack donations. And now it does take a little math on your part ahead of time, because if you're wanting to serve Jell-O to 800 kids and you need to figure out how many boxes of Jell-O that requires, then that's what I did. And then would just group it, okay, so 3 boxes of blue Jell-O, 3 boxes of blue Jell-O. And then people could say, yep, I can do 3 or I can do 6. And then they mark off the 2. Yes. And then that keeps you a real-time record. So you don't end up with 120 boxes of blue Jell-O when you only needed 60 because you couldn't communicate quickly enough what the needs were. That is, that needs request is very, very helpful for that donation. You could do the same thing with crafts, but again, you just got to think, okay, how many popsicle sticks do I need? Or it's, 2 reams of this color construction paper. Just thinking through what the specific needs are, and then what are reasonable chunks that somebody would be comfortable with donating. So
yes, when I discovered that, I literally thought I hit a gold mine. I was like, this is so good. And what I love about needs is, like you said, you put it all out there. It is in real time. So everyone can see, oh, that was taken. That was taken. Oh, I can take this. I can take multiple. And I love that I get a reminder 2 days ahead of time.
Yes. It takes care of that communication too. Yes. Absolutely.
I know. We're so spoiled today. I started ministry when we didn't have any of that. It was all paper, or, you typed it. And so I'm like, all the hours of calling and making reminder calls. And now you don't even have to do that. It's set up and then reminders go out. It's wonderful. So those of you who have not used Needs yet, go into your groups and you'll be able to see a little tab that says Needs. play around with it. It's fun, just maybe try it with your staff at first to get a feel for how that works and then launch it into bigger events like this. Your registration has got to be a big undertaking. So tell us a little bit about that. You mentioned that before when you and I were talking, you guys use QR codes, and that seems to be really a popular thing now in churches. Tell us about that registration process for someone who maybe they have never done VBS before, or they're thinking about it, or they've done it and they're just like, I'm not sure if I want to do this again. I truly believe once you do it once, you're hooked and you'll always do it. But
Yeah.
what would you say to those as far as registration? What would that look like?
Yeah. So our registration for this summer just opened. April 1st is typically our target. So that's when we start promoting and just getting the date out, and also registration is available. I will say it's a very few families that sign up in April. It's the parents who are planning way ahead and they need to have all of their weeks lined up, but it's getting the date out. It's getting that information. We do use QR codes as part of our promotion. So the QR code leads them right to the registration form, which we do all registration online through CCB. You might imagine with these 3 different VBS programs going on, we really have 3. Well, the preschool and elementary registration is very much the same, but the blast with the option for choosing those electives, theirs is separate. So hence the multiple QR codes that get people to the correct form. We have a team of people that process those, because while it is maybe slow initially, when summer does hit, then it really is an uptick. And those registrations are pouring in, and just the detailed work involved with using CCB. We use the forms, we use process queues to assign children to their specific classes, and those volunteers plugged in. We also use a process queue just for recruiting and placing volunteers in their areas of service, making sure they've got their background checks and volunteer applications all in a row, separate queues for all of those details, particularly because of the large numbers that we have been working with. I mean, we couldn't do it without a system like CCB provides. But I'd encourage anybody, no matter the size, because then the beautiful thing is you have the system set up that you can go back to the following year and you don't have to start from nothing. So that has definitely been helpful over the years as we just, tweak sometimes and make adjustments. Oh, this would have worked better, or, this field needs to be adjusted. But for the most part, we've done this a while. It has looked different years, but having that foundation and that system in place then enables the flexibility, when we need to. For example, when COVID hit, and of course we knew in 2020, VBS was not going to be able to be the same as it was, but we shifted and did it in backyards. We called it our church's Trinity Church. We did Trinity at home VBS, and we had different volunteers who hosted VBS in their backyards. And we were only able to do that and do it somewhat quickly. I mean, you remember those days, we were all making decisions we'd never made before and didn't have frameworks for that. But because we had some systems in place, that experience, we were able to pivot. And that was really a powerful way to still provide a VBS experience. And in some ways, I even liked that at home better. We did it again last year. Last year, we had the option for at home, and we also had the option for in our building different weeks. And the people that hosted in their backyards loved it, because their neighbors came who maybe wouldn't go to the church building, but they would come to their backyard because they trusted them and they knew them. And yeah, just a beautiful time for connecting with their neighbors, their kids' friends, as they hosted those events in their backyard.
There's just such a positive ripple effect to having Vacation Bible School or any type of outreach with kids, because they're just so full of faith and joy, and they're uninhibited. They just go and share, yep. Which I love working with kids because of that. Your sister, Katie, is a master organizer, and she has created an incredible process that she's made available. I think she's going to make it available for our listeners, which I'm so thrilled, because like you say, where do you start? there you talked about all these different, the processes and forms and different things like that.
Mhm.
So Katie is going to make it so easy for anyone who is interested. We will have a link to her document there. So you can click, we'll probably put it in the podcast link. So you can find that as a helpful resource. You guys are a dynamic duo. I have to say, it's so great to work together. And it's like, your gifts come together and you create this incredible event for your children. So
Well, thank you.
yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share, Carolyn, during this time where, we have probably a lot of people right now from children's and hopefully youth ministries. I'm hoping that this really encourages churches who maybe stop at 5th grade, because I've seen that for decades where we stop at 5th grade, but I hope that it will inspire creative ideas for that 6th, 7th, maybe even 8th grade, and then bringing youth in to serve. So do you have any final words you'd like to share?
Yeah, I would just encourage ministry leaders to try it, to go for it. VBS has a lot of flexibility. You can do it during the day. You can do it during the evening. You can do it 4 days. You can do it 5. You can include a meal. You can not, there's so much flexibility to it. And it fills, again, I think, a super important need. It's such a unique opportunity to have that concentrated time to show God's love, to teach his truth. And I'd love to come alongside you. Pam has my social media contacts and email. I'm happy to answer questions. As I said, we've done it a lot. We've done it different ways over the years. So I would love to share some of the things that we've learned with others and would be happy to do that.
Oh, thank you for providing that. You may get inundated, just so you know.
Well, that's all right. Because I've been there. I have been there when I think, I don't know how this is going to come together. Could somehow it all just get canceled? Just hoping it would all disappear, because it is overwhelming. There are a lot of details, but it is so worth it. And I think with a little planning and even just some questions to think through, again, that off-season time can be so valuable in setting yourself up for success when the unexpected arises. So.
Hey everyone, Brian from the PushPay team here. The process guide that Carolyn and her sister Katie have made is a fantastic guide to how you can simplify things for not only VBS, but other events you might hold. You can actually find out more tips and tricks for using PushPay's CHMS at Katie's YouTube channel, CCB Coach. And if you don't currently have our CHMS and want to learn more about how it can help make your workload lighter, go to pushpay.com to book a demo.
Well, Carolyn, I want to thank you for your time. I know you're busy. This time with you has been very delightful. I love connecting with anyone who works with children and youth. You're special in my heart because I know the sacrifices. It's a church within a church. I always say that about children and youth ministries. It truly is a church within a church. So thank you so much for taking your time out of your day today. And I know our listeners are going to be inspired.
Thank you, Pam. This has been pure pleasure for me as well.
This has been PushPay's Moving Mountain podcast, real talk from church leaders about overcoming challenges and growing their ministries. If you'd like to learn more about Church Staff or any of the features mentioned in our podcast, visit us at pushpay.com. Make sure you subscribe so that you can get notified whenever a new episode comes out. You don't want to miss out on any of these great conversations with amazing people. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time.